Hello. Thanks for joining me here today, guys. Today's a little bit different. Usually I'm on at a different time. Today I'm here for the European crowd. I never really do a lot of lives at this time, mostly because my audience is mostly in the United States and stuff. But I thought I'd do a YouTube live for European and the Eurasian continent today. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some opportunities in August coming up. We got beginner Oud learning packages for online lessons, Zoom lessons. I did that last month and it was great. It was quite a success and people really enjoyed the lessons. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also going to be doing for the first time more intensive workshop on the Persian Radif. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. But first, let's get into some music. So before I get into that, let me know how long you've been playing the oud, or how long you've been playing music. Are you a beginning? How long have you been interested in Middle Eastern music? Let me know where you're from. Yeah, feel free to comment on that. Thanks, I appreciate hearing from you. Thank you. That was a little bit of Persian style oud playing. And so today I want to talk about, first of all, the beginner oud lesson packages. So in the oud beginner packages, these are online lessons that will be held on Zoom. And it's going to be a set of 4 lessons. And in those lessons, it's for bare beginners. People with, you don't have to have any oud ability at all. It would be preferable if you have the ability to tune your oud. That way we don't have to spend too much time on tuning the oud and just get to playing the oud. But if you don't have any experience at all, that's completely fine. In the first lesson, we're going to tackle everything you need to know about tuning the oud, and I'll be guiding you through it 100% of the way. So that's if you have no experience tuning the oud, you have an oud, maybe you don't know what strings are on it, that would be the first lesson, going through all that, getting a rough idea of where you're at with the oud right now, especially with tuning. So if you do know how to tune the oud, and if you can do that to some degree, then we'll be discussing holding the oud in the first lesson, where to put the right hand, where to put the left hand, how to hold the oud properly. We'll be doing some right hand exercises. We'll be doing one exercise which is absolutely essential to start from the beginning, and that's an exercise where you play a downstroke on one string and then an upstroke on the string above that string. This is really powerful for your technique. It enables you to play really fast eventually, and so as you practice this every day, it'll really make playing the oud a lot easier in the future. And then for the first lesson, we will also talk about the left hand, and we will learn the natural notes on the first two strings, the C string. So we'll learn the notes C, D, E, and also G, A, B. So the outcome of the first lesson is to learn and master the note names on the first two strings and develop mobility around these notes, and also develop the fourth finger mobility a little bit too. Our pinky finger is always very weak, so it's important to develop that. Lesson 2, which will be the week after, you'll be learning the notes on the D string, learning 2 exercises to work that out and exercise your fingers and master those notes on the D string, the A string, and also the notes on on the bass strings too, just 1 or 2 of the notes. So the outcome of the second lesson will be to learn and master the note names on the D string and the A string, or Re string and La string. Now in lesson 3, then we're going to focus on on using all these notes that we've learned and learning a scale. So the C major scale, for example. We'll be doing some exercises, learning how to play quarter notes, and also eighth notes, and 16th notes, so that'll really develop the coordination between your left hand, right hand, and also doing something a bit more complicated on the right hand too. And then lastly, we're going in lesson 4, you're actually going to take these notes and learn your first actual song on the oud. So the goal and outcome of this whole beginner oud lessons thing is to learn your first song and learn the natural note names on the fingerboard and develop some ability with the right hand as well. And you're going to learn, you have 2 options. If you're interested in Arabic music, then you will learn Halalalaleya, grade Levantine song. If you're interested in Persian music, then we're going to learn the beginning of a tune called Morgh Sahar, really famous classic Persian song. So that is what the beginner oud lessons are all about, getting you into learning your first song on the oud, learning all the notes, and getting you in the right zone to progress on the oud. So that's what that's all about. If you have questions about how to enroll, the price is $160, so that comes out to $40 each. That's a little bit of a discount, bit of a discount compared to my usual one-off lessons. And you can access the link to enroll in that at the link in the description. There are only 5 slots for that, so only 5 people. I only have room for 5 people to join for August, and you can choose the time based on what is convenient for you. You'll make your payment through PayPal, and then you'll be directed to a calendar where you can choose the time slots depending on your availability and my availability. Ideally, it would be good if the lessons are 1 week apart. That way you have time to practice. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, let me know in the chat. If not, that's cool. We'll talk about that later. I'll answer any questions coming up later. Okay, and Persian Radif. So as you may or may not know, my first education in music was actually in Persian music. I started playing the santur at the age of 10. The santur is like an inside-out piano, a hammered dulcimer. So I started playing that when I was 10, and I eventually started learning how to play the radif. I studied it with my santur teacher, went through the radif on the santur, and then later on when I started learning oud or barbat with Hossein Behrzenia in Vancouver, I also studied the radif with him as well, and we studied it in two different positions. The way that the radif is composed, it's better for tar and sitar tunings. So we learned it. He taught me how to play it with those tunings in mind, and also with tunings that are more ideal for the oud. But this radif workshop that I'm going to be doing, it's going to be open to all instruments all instruments that can do microtonal pitches on them. That would be ideal. However, it is open to any advanced musician. Even if you don't play a microtonal capable instrument, you're welcome to join for the knowledge that I'll be giving, and you can also use your voice to learn the melodies. You can use your ear as valid as any other instrument. So if you're comfortable doing that, you can also join. So I recommend that your instrument level, your ability on the instrument is upper intermediate to advanced level. That way you can get all the benefits from the course. But if you're really keen and you let me know in advance, it might be suitable for you to join too. Maybe if your level is not quite there yet, but your music knowledge is a bit higher. So composers, if you want to join that is also a great place to learn Persian music. It's great if you have some ability to sight read music. That would be beneficial, but also ear learning is completely valid as well. The radif was originally taught in an oral way, from master to apprentice, in that kind of copy, call and response kind of method, and so you're totally able to learn that way as well. You don't need to read music at all, in truth. So on the first, it's gonna be 4 or 5 days, 2 hours each day. The lessons will be held on the weekend and it'll likely be morning time in Europe time zones. The first day we were going to spend 2 hours to focus on Dastgah Shur and some of the related avaz like Abu Ata, Dashti, Bayat Chord. And then on the second day, the day after, on Sunday, we're going to be doing Dastgah Homayun and Esfahan. Third day, which will be the weekend after, we'll do Mahur and Ras Panjgah. Then on the fourth day, we'll do Chahargah and Nava. And I may schedule a fifth day. We may go over 2 hours in time. The sessions will also be recorded. And you will get access to the recording as they are available. So if you miss a class, that's fine. You'll be able to catch up and learn the material if you want. A bonus thing that I'll be adding to this is that you'll be able to. I'll be assigning some homework that you can learn, and you'll have time during the week if you want to record your renditions of what you learned in the class. You can send those recordings to me. I'll explain how you can do that and all that stuff. But you can send the recordings to me and I will review and give you feedback on them. So this is going to be held, let's see here, forgot the dates. So these are going to be held on the 28th of August, 29th of August, the 4th of September, and the 5th of September. And it will likely be morning time for you if you're in Europe. Let's see here. Let me just bring up my time zone converter. So let's say, so it's going to be So if it starts 7 p.m. my time zone, it will be 11 a.m. in the UK. I think 12 p.m. Central European time. So it'll be late morning, early afternoon, for 2 hours on the weekends there. So that's what we're gonna do. So let me talk a little bit about what the Radif is, and where it came from, and why it's so important to learn in Persian music. So the Radif is now what it looks like is a collection of music. You can buy a book. I'll be providing all the learning materials in digital format. It's a big thick book of notation, and it's all these melodies that have been compiled by particular masters of Persian music, particularly in the 19th century. The 1800s, this became compiled, and eventually it was notated in Western notation, and now we have several iterations of the Radif, and the Radif is this collection. Radif means order, or succession, or a queue, a lineup of these melodies. So these melodies have been ordered in an order which are used for teaching purposes, and as well as a logic order for melodic pathways that you could take. And this encompasses like 90 to 95% of the melodic vocabulary that Persian music has. So if you listen to a song in Persian music, a classic Persian song, it follows the logic of the Radif, and you can hear all these different melodies are called gushe. Gushe means corner or niche. So you can think of it as a melodic niche of the set of notes that you have in a dastgah. Dastgah is what we would call makam in Turkish or Arabic. Dastgah is the hand system or hand position. Dast means hand in Farsi, and gah means position. So dastgah is the hand position of so and so scale or mode. So for example, dastgah shur. Shur is the name of the mode or the system of notes that you use, and dastgah is the way of going about those notes in a matter of speaking. That's one way if you want to go back into the etymology of the words and whatnot. So the Radif is essential for anyone who's studying Persian music to eventually dive into and learn. The tricky part about learning the Radif is that if you just look at the notes, it's difficult to interpret because it's all non-rhythmical. There's no tempo, there's no meter. It's maybe hard to see that, but I can show a digital copy later on. But it's all non-rhythmical. There are some rhythmical parts in there, but for the most part, most of the content is all non-metered. So how do you interpret that? That's why you need a teacher, and that's why it's important to learn the Radif with a teacher. You can do things one-on-one. You can learn the techniques. So we'll be focusing mostly on the melodies and the key melodies, the key gushe, the key melodic niches in each of these dastgah. Because there are melodic niches and melodic development that are more important than the others. Some these days are not even played, unfortunately. Some of the small modulations that you hear in some of the gushe these days are not even present in the modern performance of Persian music. So it's really quite a rich material. And of course, this is going to be an overview, kind of a crash course in the Radif, showing you the key melodic niches in each of the dastgah so that you can get a bit of an overview, so that it becomes easier to digest the music, so that later on you can go and study the Radif more in depth perhaps, and some of these arcs with the composition and with the melodic development in improvisation will become more clear once you know the really important melodic development that occurs in the Radif. So for example, in Abu Ata, Avaza Abu Ata, you'll be learning daromad. Daromad is like an overture or introduction to Abu Ata. We'll be looking at that, and we'll be looking especially at another gushe called Hijaz. Hijaz is a really important melodic development which happens in Avaz Abu Ata. It's essential to happen, and so I can give you a little rundown of what happens in these different gushe, and we'll relate it to the tetrachords and pentachords which occur in Persian music. In Farsi, this is called dang, and we'll relate it to how these relate. We'll talk about that, but basically, the Daromad Abu Ata focuses on the first tetrachord. These 4 or 5 notes that you have here. Let's say we have Abu Ata on G, Sol. So that's the some of the essence of Daromad Abu Ata. Then Hijaz moves up to the fifth degree in the scale. So melodies start to revolve around there. This is just a quick, diluted version of Hijaz. But that's what happens in Gushe Hijaz. And when you study the Gushe in more depth, you can see how the melody develops and goes back to the home base. So in Persian music, we have a starting point, an ending point, and you will see the common themes that occur in these melodic niches, which show connections and start to make the music make sense. We'll talk about some of the aspects of Persian music, important notes like shahed, east. Shahed is like the tonic, like a moving tonic. And east is like certain notes that you pause on frequently that create certain cadences. We'll also talk about variable notes that occur. For example, in Avaz Dashti, Avaz Dashti is heavy on the 5th degree. This fifth note, D natural, if you want to call it that, D natural sometimes varies and becomes D koron. Koron is our half flat note that we call. So we'll be talking about that. All these different features of the Radif. So it's going to be a great little overview of the Radif system, and we'll be looking at certain melodies that will give context to what you hear in Persian music nowadays. So that's my little introduction to the Radif. I'm sure I didn't do it justice. It's a complicated subject. It takes years of dedicated study to really learn it. It's ideal if you have the time. I don't know how many people actually do it anymore, but to memorize the Radif is another level of learning and mastering the music as well. I myself, I haven't memorized it. I've memorized the main gushes, the main melodies that occur, and the main, not really note for note, but the melodic contours that occur. That's really important. At some level, if you want to learn Persian music, you have to at least know the contours that these melodic developments have, and where everything is going and where it's coming, where it ends up. So they're really, in essence, each gushe has a theme. It may be a melodic theme, it may be a rhythmical theme, and that theme makes it noticeable to the listener that is whatever gushe. And each gushe has a name. Well, the interesting thing about the different gushe in the Radif is that sometimes you have names of Turkish maqams or Arabic maqams in there. For example, Ruh Afza, Ruhul Arva, Rahat al Arwa in Arabic. So it's really interesting to see how these things, how there is some continuity in the terms that you will see in the Radif. But unfortunately, the melodies have changed over time and have become their own thing and have developed a certain way. So yeah, that's my little introduction of the Radif. And you can also enroll in the workshop at the link in the description if you open up the description there. So that will be held again the August 28th, 29th, and September 4th and 5th in the late morning, early afternoon for 2 hours each day. We may go over time depending on how much time is needed. You'll also get recordings of the workshop as well. So right now I'll open up anything to any questions about Persian music that you may have or learning the oud in general. So thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for joining me. Happy to answer any questions you may have. All right, thanks for joining, Robert. Nice to see you here. The tuning. Yes, the tuning. The tuning is C or Do. We have G or Sol. We have D or Re. We have A or La. And then we have F or Fa, and we have C or Do. All right. The prerequisites for the $160 course. That is the beginner oud lessons. So the only prerequisite really that you need is to have an oud and to have strings on the oud, ideally. It's preferable if you can tune the oud, then you'll get more out of the lessons. But if you don't know how to tune the oud, I will guide you through it completely in the first lesson. But likely we'll be spending most of the first lesson on just tuning the oud if you don't know how to tune the oud yet, or if you're having trouble navigating the strings and all that. But I'll show you the easiest way to get around all that. So the only prerequisite for the beginner oud lessons is to have an oud and have strings on the oud, really. All right, thanks for that question. So where am I from? What do you mean by where I'm from? Oh, I was born in Canada to a mixed Iranian-Canadian family, and I studied Persian music in Canada with private teachers. And so my family is originally from Iran, and so that's where my music journey started, with Persian music in Canada. Sika Baladi. Yeah. It's quite a challenging maqam. What it does is it takes two tetrachords, Hijaz tetrachords, and it shrinks the interval quite a lot in between. So for example, let's say you start on G here. You have a very microtonal interval here. G, let's say A half flat, and then you have a B half flat here, and then C, and then D half flat, and then E half flat, and then F. This is a very difficult maqam to play and really play well. Even I haven't really mastered it that much. But it's just a crunched interval. I've heard some iterations of it actually not being completely a tetrachord, like a perfect fourth tetrachord. So for example, I've heard it played like this, where the C is actually a little bit flat. So if your oud strings are a little bit loose, it depends on what strings you have on there. If you could try to tune a little bit higher, but it depends. It really depends on how long your oud is. You should probably measure your oud and see how long it is from this side to the bridge. If this length is 58.5 centimeters, then you might be okay to tune it a little bit higher, maybe to Turkish tuning. Turkish tuning is one whole step higher, but it also depends on the strings that you have on there too. Keep in mind that oud players in general like low tension strings too, so it may not be safe to tune your oud up. That would be harder to know whether that's safe. You could tune it up a little bit just to see if it gets better, holds a better tuning, or sounds better, sounds clearer. String tension is really important when it comes to playing the oud or getting the right sound out of it. So you joined a little bit late. Beginner oud course. So in the beginner oud course, the first lesson you're going to learn how to hold the oud, the basics of the right hand, left hand. I'll guide you through it. I'll show you some exercises that will really increase your technical ability, especially all the way into the future of your oud playing. We're going to learn the basic notes on the C string, G string, and we're also going to learn this in the second lesson. We're going to learn the notes on the D string, A string, all the natural notes, and also on the bass strings. Then we're going to, in the third lesson, we're going to learn the C major scale, and also some different ways to play the C major scale with different stroke patterns. And then in the fourth lesson, you're going to learn your first song using the notes that you've learned. So you'll be able to go from knowing not much on the oud, and then all the way to learning your first very simple song on the oud. So that's basically a rundown of it. Why is it hard to pluck a downstroke on string and upstroke on another string? That's because of the angle of your attack. It depends on your angle of attack. Like the basic angle of attack here, the rudimentary angle, you see my hand goes into the soundboard and hits the string. And then it lands on the string below. So it's going to be, if it lands on the string below, what's going to happen is it's going to be difficult to do an upstroke on there. So what has to happen is you have to play with the angle of your attack and do it a little bit less of a strong angle, so that when you go away from the string, you go away from the soundboard just a little bit in order to catch the string on the way back to the wind-up. So it is with the subtle angle that you're able to do down, up easier. One of the exercises I show in the lessons, which I'll show you a little bit here, is to do a downstroke on the first string, and then an upstroke on the string above it. This is challenging. This I actually took me a while to learn this myself. It's with the subtle. This is a more advanced way of playing the strings, and the reason for that is because you have to be more subtle. But I show this to beginners from the very get-go because I want them to have a lot of time to develop the subtle movements with the right hand. So this exercise, just focusing on these two strings, can help you to play complex passages on the oud very quickly. So doing those, just defaulting to down, up, going up and down scales and up and down, different ways and different strings. Learning that technique from the get-go is really effective to getting a good advanced technique in the future and being able to play faster later on. And also developing nice, small, but efficient strokes. All right, next questions. Okay, so it's about a year you've been playing oud. You didn't have any background in music. Um, so yeah, I recommend consistency when it comes to practicing. Be consistent with practicing the oud. If you take breaks, sometimes it can be hard to get back into it. Sometimes we lose it, especially in that first year of oud playing. Um, yeah, it can be hard to keep it up, and it can be hard. It's a high learning curve as well. So I would recommend consistency. If you feel like your ears are weak, then I recommend using your voice. If you're driving in the car and listening to the radio, try to sing the melodies you hear. That will strengthen your ear. Your voice is your primary instrument, and it's so important to use that instrument when you're learning music. If I can hear a melody and I can sing the melody, then it's easier for me to figure out how to play it on the oud. So that's what I recommend. Use your ear. Use every excuse you have, whether you're listening to music in the car or in the shower. Try to sing the melodies you hear. That's how you'll memorize them. That's also very important for learning maqams and also learning the microtonal notes. If you can sing it, then you'll be able to find it. You need to copy. It's all about copying. It's just like It's just like learning a new language. When you learn a new word, you have to hear the word and you have to attempt to pronounce the word. That's exactly what you're doing with music. You're attempting to match what you hear. So it's using the same skill. Okay. When you play a downstroke on the G string, sometimes try to play the next note on the C string with a downstroke with the same movement. Do you recommend this? Yes, I do. Yeah, that's a great Risha pattern. That's also very efficient because your hand is already moving in that direction. It can be very effective at times. So you can there's different ways of playing that. So for example, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down. That's a great way. So you play down, down, up, down, down, up, down, 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 up. Sorry, what was that? Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down. In order to play, whatever you want to play, doing down, down is great. Awesome. Another pattern which is great is down, down, up, or down, down, up, down, or down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Another good stroke pattern is down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. That way the downstroke always helps with the emphasis that you want to create in oud playing. So if you have a very triplet feel, da 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 da, then down, up, up, down is a really good pattern to have. Can you give us a quick tip on how to read music faster? How to read music faster? Just do it every day, a little bit every day. I think it all just comes down to practice and consistency. There's no easy way to get around it. It's just memorizing, what note is on each line, what note it is. Eventually, the more you do it, the better you get at it. I remember when I was a teenager, there was a time where I quit playing santur, and then I started dabbling in other instruments. I started playing guitar and stuff, and guitar players, tend to use tablature. So at that point in my teenage life, when I took a break from santur and started learning guitar, I got really rusty when it came to note reading. And I was really good before that, but I got rusty. I almost forgot how to read notes. But I got back into it, and it was just, after, it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. So I recommend using that skill. Try to put some time every day to read music. And right now there's a lot of free resources on YouTube in order to help you learn music, how to read music. So use whatever resources you can. Go search for little worksheets to help you. You see a note and you write the note name. Go and do that. Learn both systems, the ABCD system as well as the solfege, do re mi fa sol la si. It's not very hard to learn both. I use both. in my lessons. Some people prefer one or the other, so I use both interchangeably. It's not that difficult. It's just like learning any skill. It's just like learning how to drive a car. Eventually you do it automatically if you do it enough. There's no really quick way around it. You just got to keep doing it a bit every day. Strings and tuning advice. Advice on trying to get the most out of a cheaper quality oud. That's a good question. Strings and tuning advice, for what's the purpose and what's the goal? I need to know a bit more about what you mean. So for example, strings, I recommend the Dario Arabic oud string set. I think the code is EJ95A. I love those strings. They're great. That's what I use on my Arabic oud. Right now I've got the Dario EJ95 for Turkish tuning. And I just, right now I have, because I need to change the Turkish tuning sometimes. So right now I have it on Arabic tuning. It works okay. It's not bad. But the Arabic tuning is great for Arabic ouds. The strings are a little thicker for the lower tuning. Not very expensive and high quality oud strings. I really like the Dario Arabic oud strings. Tuning advice, I need to know what you mean by tuning advice. You use the specific tuning for what you want to do. So if you want to play Persian music, I would recommend a certain tuning. If you want to play Arabic music, I would recommend a certain tuning. If you want to extend the range of your oud and play higher notes rather than lower notes, I would recommend a certain tuning. If you want to learn Turkish music, I would recommend Turkish tuning. The bass strings on the oud are always variable. So these ones, the core basic oud technique is just on the first four, the bottom four strings. They're tuned in perfect fourths. That is essential. Perfect fourths tuning is essential for the oud because you need to have that tuning in order to play certain ornaments that are authentic to the idioms of this instrument. Do I use 440? Yeah, but pitch is, I use 440 for the basis of most other people tune to 440, but pitch, absolute pitch, concert pitch is not important for Middle Eastern music. What matters is relative pitch. So it doesn't matter if you tune your oud high or low, 440 or whatever, it doesn't matter. But strings are made for certain pitches, are better for certain pitches. If I tune this too low, it's not going to sound good. If I tune it too high, it's going to damage the instrument. So I use 440 most of the time, but it's not essential. All right, if there are no more questions, I'll let you go. Thanks so much again. Check the links in the description to enroll in either the Persian Radif workshop that'll be happening at the end of August, or the beginner oud lessons, the 4 lessons for $160 to learn oud from zero and to be able to play your first song on the oud. Oh yeah, advice on getting the most out of a cheap quality oud. Let's see. If you want to get the most out of it, it depends on where it came from, but sometimes down tuning it is going to help. Like let's say the oud has really bad action, so the distance from the fingerboard is too high. Tune it lower, it'll be easier to play. Maybe just a half step lower, or a full step lower. So that might be a tip. Also, play the oud daily. If you play the oud daily and you tune the oud regularly, you can get a decent oud sound and playability out of an instrument. That's basically what you're going to get out of a cheaper oud. You may get a decent sound after a while if you play it more and more. But playability is the hardest thing to get out of a cheap oud. That's the biggest difference between a high quality oud and a lower quality oud, is that the playability is completely different. cheaper ouds are going to be less comfortable, harder to play. The sound is one thing. Sometimes some cheap ouds have a good sound. That happens. So it really depends on the oud. Alright, thanks so much guys for joining. I'll let you go. And if you have any more questions, email me. If you have questions about the Radif workshop or the oud lessons, email me at support@OudforGuitarists. Here is the email in the chat there. Alright, email me if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. Again, thanks for joining. Hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Or what? Yeah, it's Sunday today. Alright, thanks. Bye.